Hi, how are you? Welcome to
I'm
the
very well.
JFDI show. I'm Gabriella, and we are here today with Samir Lakhani. And I discovered his story a while back because he is a CNN hero, which we will get into in a moment. But he is the founder of a project called Eco Soap Bank, and it fascinated me because I am in the hospitality industry, and I was shocked to learn about it. Because I think a lot of the times, a lot of the industries we're in, don't go forward and think about how they can help the local community. And I think it takes an inspirational person like this to sort of figure out how to connect the dots. So first, welcome. Thanks for chatting with me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Hopefully, I can live up to that intro.
Well, I'm sure you far surpass anything I could say about you. But you're really inspiring. I would love for you to tell people how you thought of this idea. First of all, explain what the project does. And then I'd love to know where the idea even came from.
Absolutely. No, so the founding story is it's definitely emotional, but the overview of our work is very simple. So our nonprofit is called Eco Soap Bank. It's named after a food bank, but we store soap to save lives and reduce disease instead. And what we do is we empower and employ economically disadvantaged women in 10 developing countries to collect and recycle leftover hotel soap. The recycled soap is then redistributed in all sorts of environments like health clinics, hospitals, schools, detention centers, prisons, and even rural communities with hygiene education in an attempt to reduce disease, but also teach people to get into the habit of hand washing. Since 2015, we've reached over 1.1 million people with free soap and hygiene education. And hopefully by 2020, we'll reach 2.5 million people through a campaign that we're calling Project Eco Soap, where anyone around the world can actually buy the soap that our women make. And for every bar that we sell, we're going to donate 100 bars to children in need.
That's incredible. And where did you come up with this idea? Like, how and when did you see this? And, where did it come to you?
Absolutely. So it was definitely an emotional ride. So I was a college student and I was volunteering in Cambodian villages, and I witnessed a scene that would haunt me to this day. I saw a village woman bathing her newborn son, but she was scrubbing his skin with laundry powder, a toxic alternative that should have never been used, right? But due to economic and educational circumstances, it's all that she had. And I was staying in a hotel in Cambodia, and I went back to the hotel, and I was just feeling really down about this. I couldn't get the image out of my head. But as I stepped into the hotel bathroom, I noticed my housekeeper had replaced a bar of soap I had barely touched, right? So it clicked, eureka, lightning bolt moment, and I realized, listen, there's a world of soap under my feet. It's just a matter of recycling it safely and redirecting it to the people that need it.
And how did you come up with that process? Because it's a brilliant idea, but you would think, okay, what do you do with, soap? Someone's used it. I mean, who did you speak to about that? And how did you get the idea going? Because that's what we really love to talk about on this show is, okay, it goes from idea to implementation in about, 60 seconds. It sounds like you're that type of person. I mean, who did you approach about how to do that safely?
That's a great question. I haven't talked about this in a long time. So
I'm so curious.
it,
I love it.
it got stuck in this idea got stuck in my head, and I wanted to see it done, and I only had about 10 days left in my Cambodian trip. So the very next morning, what I did is I put on my best Hawaiian t-shirt. I wasn't well dressed at all, and I hopped on a
Comb
bike.
your hair.
Yeah, right? I put on some cologne, and in the 110-degree Cambodian heat, I bicycled from five-star hotel to five-star hotel, completely drenched in sweat. And I spoke to managers and I said, listen, stop throwing away your used soap. There are people out there that need it. And obviously, people thought I was crazy. For entrepreneurs, this is a common experience. Um, But obviously they knew the circumstances that was in the villages, right? So they immediately knew this is a way that we can help. And so they got on board, and now we recycle soap from over 1,000 hotels. Now the partnership is a little more professional than me showing up on a bicycle, but that's the humble beginning.
But that's amazing. And that's exactly what I wanted to hear. And I think everybody wanted to hear, because that's the difference between a person that thinks about it and does it. You know, you got on your bike, it didn't matter the temperature, it didn't matter you weren't dressed in a 3-piece suit, had the idea and you went around just to show people, okay, I'm passionate about this and this is what I want to get done, and look at the result. Now, what were some of the challenges that you experienced along the way? Because it couldn't have been all like everybody, you know, everybody signs on and the world has changed. What happens, and what are some of the roadblocks in a charity project like this that one might experience?
Oh, there's so many. One good example is because some of these countries, especially Cambodia, is so underdeveloped, it's hard to get access to the most vulnerable communities. So these are communities that can be completely isolated by water, or there's a single dirt road that leads to them because they've been living generationally on this land for thousands of years. So we have really become as collaborative as possible. We need to work with the governments of these countries so that we can distribute soap in these areas, especially when disaster hits. We also work with local NGOs and other non-governmental organizations to make sure that we are providing soap in the most ethical manner possible. We just don't want to show up, hand soap away, and then leave. We want to make sure that that good hygiene is being taught and on a recurring basis.
That's so important. And it's like the psychology and education behind things. And I often say this, it's like if somebody is, you know, to lose weight or it's a weird example, but a gastric bypass, but they don't get the education of how to live a healthy eating life, you know, then it's just a Band-Aid, you know, it doesn't work if you don't have the other side of it. And what I think is interesting too, because I travel a lot, it sounds like you do too. And I think that is an important point to touch on, because unless you see those moments and experience those moments, it's really hard to communicate to people back home what that means. And I think that those are the things that impact you the most and cause you to do something. You know, It's hard from afar, but it sounds like you saw that child just like, you know, much like I've seen things in my travels that have caused me to get involved in a cause directly, because I couldn't simply wipe those images out of my head.
I will tell you, it's a pleasure though. So yes, of course, I can't verbally explain how beautiful Cambodian landscape is or how warm its people are, but to be able to try is an honor. And also to be able to tell people that they don't need millions of dollars to make a difference in people's lives. Yes. So listen, I mean, the average annual income for a Cambodian rural family is like $500 a year. If we can raise $1,200 to fully employ a woman with benefits, that can transform her life and her family, right? So it's a point of personal pleasure for me to say, listen, you don't need millions of dollars to build a library. You know, you can take baby steps, and we can make real changes.
And I love that. And that's important for people to know, because a lot of people don't want to get involved in something, or they don't, like, for example, an entrepreneur might have an idea but not want to start because they say, I don't have $5 million in startup cash to do this. It really just takes an idea
and the motivation to just
accept. Yeah, you know, it's amazing. So who really benefits? Of course, the communities, but you keep mentioning the women. What happens to the community, and how do you build the communities up economically at the same time?
I'm going to employ a little bit of jargon. So it's a win-win-win situation. And that's kind of what we call the initiative. So it's a win for the hotels. They get to improve their sustainability. They get to show their guests that they're taking healthcare and environmentalism seriously. It's a win for the women that we employ, because these are women struggling to find reliable sources of income. Generally, they're doing contract-based work, and they don't know if they're going to bring home any money that day. And on a side note, that's really important to help women become financially independent and help them, you know, with upward mobility and things like that. And then lastly, it's a win for the community that receives this soap because for the first time, they have access to the right type of soap. They have access to education to learn how to keep themselves healthy and on an ongoing basis. So it's a win-win-win situation across the board. And yeah, we're just going to keep scaling it as much as we can.
I love it. So you mentioned some numbers before. I want you to repeat them of how many people have been helped and also what's next. Where do you go next? And what are some of the next projects that you're looking at?
Absolutely. So it blows my mind to think that we have grown out of that hotel room. So we're partnering with 1,000 hotels in 10 countries. But the most important figure is that since that fateful day in 2015, we've reached over 1.1 million people with soap and education. Now, of course, that's a testament to the effectiveness of our organization, sure, but it's more so a testament to how much soap waste there is in the world, right?
Well, tell me a little bit about that too. I mean, we probably have no idea, and I know how much food waste there is, but I don't think about hygienic products. I mean, tell me a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So I'm going to ask you a trivia question. So how many bars of soap, not to put you on the spot, how many bars of soap per day are thrown away by hotels per day?
Per day by hotels around the world? I'd have no idea. I could spitball, but I have no idea.
It's 5 million bars per day.
Per day?
per day, right? That's 2 billion, 2 billion with a B per year.
So this is even if they've just gotten wet in the shower or somebody's used it once to wash their hands, obviously.
They have to throw it away.
Okay.
Anyway, so that is a major untapped hygienic resource, especially in an era where millions of children, unfortunately, pass away and suffer because of something that can be prevented with soap. It's a simple connecting A with B, and that's what we're trying to do. So just starting the initiative in our humble organization, we've reached 1.1 million people, but then we started to figure out that not everybody can afford to donate. Not everybody can afford to get involved in nonprofits globally. So what we have done is we employ 150 women around the world on a full-time basis as soap makers. And so we're going to have these soap makers share their craft with the world by creating a luxury soap product that is in completely zero waste packaging. And I'll talk about that in a second. So a zero waste soap product that we want to sell here in North America and elsewhere in the world to fund their employment, but also fund our charitable soap donations in that country. And through the sale of this soap product, we want to reach 2.5 million people by next year. That's incredible. And what countries do you currently operate in? Sure. So we operate in 10 countries: Cambodia, Laos, Nepal, Rwanda, Tanzania, South Africa, Sierra Leone, Lebanon, and Ghana. And so if any of your listeners have traveled there recently, including yourself, it's probably very likely, actually, we've recycled your leftover soap. So thank you. Might have. I've been to most of those countries. Thank you very much. I've given back already. See, we just You're an ongoing supporter, and you didn't even know. No, that's the point, right? Travel to these incredible countries and make sure you do it as sustainably as possible. Stay in a hotel that recycles their soap. So yeah, we're in those countries, but we're going to continue to scale. And hopefully, if people believe in our soap product, that will allow us to employ more women. I love that. And tell me a little bit about how the experience was when you were selected as a CNN hero, because that's a special, special honor. Of course, Blanket. It was humbling for sure, but it was particularly humbling because I had grown up watching that show like every single year in many respects. Oh, me too. 100% obsessed. It's so inspirational, and in many ways, I feel I am a humanitarian, if you will, because of that TV show. And so for them to call me up out of the blue and say, oh, we would like to give you this award for your work with Eco Soap Bank, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a telemarketer, some old friend from childhood who knew I watched that show. But then it quickly became a reality once they flew me out there and I was on, I accepted the award. So.
Yeah, and just the recognition and publicity for the organization had to have been wonderful.
Yeah, no, people all over the world want to get involved. And so hotels have begun to reach out to us, and that's how we scale. But additionally, there are people who've been asking, even to this day, where can I buy this soap to promote the mission? How can I get involved and support the women? So yeah, it's an honor.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I'm just envisioning people watching this like all over the world and being like, all right, let me just like run the soap under the water for a second so I can put it here so it can get recycled rather than leave it in the package and take it back, which is normally what I would do. Right? And how can people get involved from afar? It's like you just mentioned, okay, where can they buy the soap, but can they donate? Talk to us a little bit about, which platforms people can find you and get involved.
Absolutely. So the first thing is, if you're in a position where you can donate, please do so. I'll give you a simple figure, right? A $25 donation allows us to employ a woman to make 250 bars of soap to then redirect to children, right? So a donation goes towards an environmental recycling program, women's employment, and healthcare for children at the same time. It costs us about 10 cents to make one of those bars of soap. So their donation goes further. And for those who can't afford to donate, if they buy soap, of course, buy our soap, please. It's for a good cause. And then lastly, if you want to stay up to date on the mission and the fight, head over to our website, ecosoapbank.org, and sign up for our newsletter. That's probably the best way to stay up to date.
Well, that's amazing. If for any hotels and fellow hoteliers watching, I would encourage you to reach out as well, because there are probably things that you could be doing that you have no idea about that would be impacting people around the world. And I love your story. I really appreciate you chatting with me, because you are such an example of everyone we want to talk about on this particular show, as someone who goes from idea to implementation in minimal amount of time, just because they really, really believe that it'll work, and they're actually willing to do the work to put in to make it happen. And there's so many people with great ideas but don't take action. And when we see an example like this, it's just incredibly inspiring. Yeah, so
I had a lot of help. I don't want to give the impression it's just one crazy young man. The real drivers of this organization is the women that we employ. They are the agents in the communities that are driving change, and really they're energizing me.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Well, I encourage everybody to hop over to the website. We'll put the contact information in our bio on YouTube, which you'll find once this video goes up. And I really appreciate you spending with me today. Your story is just incredible. And I know people will get a lot out of it. Thanks.
Thank you so much.